Okay, so we've had some technical meat. I'm afraid I have to do the vegetables between now and coffee. We like to spend a little bit of time, at least once a year, just explaining to you a little bit about how UKNOF works and what we're doing. I see a lot of yellow lanyard first-timers in the room, so hopefully you'll find this explanation useful. Hopefully the regulars won't find it too boring, but I'll try and get it over as quickly as possible so that we can have the sponsor presentation. And then coffee. Mentioning the coffee, just a brief reminder to everybody that the rule in the venue is that you can't bring food and drink into the auditorium, so I'd appreciate if you please respect that, however caffeine deprived you may feel. Anyway, so UKNOF, this is our 35th meeting, successful so far. I believe that we have in excess of 170 people here today. We've had as many as 350 in some of our London meetings. The mailing list, we try and keep it interesting, stimulating, controversial.
Surely not.
And I think one of the nice things about UKNOF is that there are a lot of UK internet bodies of various sorts, but they're all very mission specific. They're there to operate a particular function or infrastructure. We have a wider remit than that, and we're also more open, which means that I think it's, we can bring in different topics, we can bring in new people. And we also like to bring international speakers to the UK. There's a hardcore of people who go to UKNOF meetings and the international meetings, but there's a lot of people who never get to them. So we try and bring them to your corner of the country. We have all the social media stuff. And the charter basically says that we have one meeting a year in London. We have at least a year outside London, and we kind of defaulted to London in January, Manchester in April. September meetings, it's still a one-day meeting, but it's 2 half-days, and we use that so that we've got an evening in the middle, and we quite often collocate with other events, for example, the IX Scotland session this morning. We have an algorithm for the dates, but of course that meets the reality of venue availability and clashing with other events, and we're always interested in new venues, especially for the September meeting, and we're always interested in sponsors, because the sponsors will make it free for you to attend. Some graphs, and you can see that it's not a straightforward hockey stick growth. Things go up and down a bit. It varies depending on where in the country we are. But you can see that the meetings, we keep the costs reasonably under control, and the expenses very much under control, and we've been doing good on the income front. It is, however, a non-profit, and like I said, we don't want to charge fees. We know how difficult it is for some of you to even get out of the office, so we want to make it as easy as possible to attend, and that's thanks to our sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring, please speak to Dinesh. Do register early if you want to go to a UKNOF meeting. It costs us money if you actually register late, and that's why there's a nominal fee for that. And we have a number of patrons as well who make a contribution to UKNOF on an ongoing basis, so I appreciate them too. Why do we need all this money? You can have a meeting for 100 people in a spare office meeting room. Once you get beyond that, and the catering, there's a sort of minimum threshold. We need somebody to bring in the sponsor funds, and the funds are used to basically pay for mostly Dinesh's time, also some of the other directors. Basically, what's the rule? Who do we reimburse for their time? If you're spending so much time in UKNOF, it would detract from your day job, then that's where we're in a position to reimburse, but we try and keep that under control. Typically, our meetings are costing 20 or 30,000. It costs about £125 per attendee per day to cater and find the space. Some cities are cheaper than others. And then there's a whole bunch of miscellaneous expenses, equipment, travel, paying for the badges. Director's time is basically something that is submitted to a fixed quote is submitted at the start of the year, and then we reimburse that at £30 an hour, but only if we can afford it. And that's part of the budget, and the budget is overseen by the Advisory Council. It will be shared with them at the AGM tomorrow afternoon. Just to say a little bit more about the finances, you can basically see here's the margin that we've been making on meetings, and you see as we do make a reasonable amount of margin, we are actually able to build up reserves. The target for the reserves is to be able to finance a couple of meetings without having to have any further income, so that if we run into a difficult situation, we're still in a position to keep things going. And you can see that the reserves are building nicely there. One thing, one of the stalwarts of UKNOF team is Nat Morris. Nat is not here because he has an interesting family event coming up. But one of the things that Nat has been doing a lot of work on recently is to consolidate our systems. It was great that we had various organisations who donated us various VMs and resources to run things, but it was just getting to the point where it wasn't easy to automate or integrate, and it was just becoming a hassle, the usual legacy systems problem. So we decided, well, let's just outsource this and pay a fixed contract to somebody to support all of it for us. So we went to the various partner organisations that have been helping us out in the past. We said, we're prepared to pay you money for this, please give us a quote. We decided that we would go with Mythic Beasts, and basically over the past few months, Nat has worked with the Mythic Beasts guys to migrate everything over. That's going to save a lot of hassle, a lot of pain, and Nat and other people's time. Also, Matthew Walster helped out with this. I'd say a big thank you to Bytemark, Lunup, and Jump, who have been the main providers of server resources to on a donated basis to UKNOF over the years. To thank them for the support for doing that. Governance, we're really trying not to overthink this. There are some internet organisations that basically spend most of their time debating how do we run things, what is the appropriate structure. But we're not running anything critical here. We're not running any kind of monopoly or something that will cause the nation state to fail. Obviously what we're doing is important, but trying not to overdo the governance structure, keep it lean and functional. So basically, we do believe in accountability and transparency, and we achieve these by having our advisory committee, which is basically the various internet organisations that do operate critical bits of infrastructure in the UK. The legal entity is called UKNOF. That was actually invented for something else over a decade ago, but really all that UKNOF does now is a legal entity for UKNOF. And this is things like bookkeeping and invoicing, holding the bank accounts, and filing VAT returns, all that kind of tedious stuff. These are the board members. Myself, Willie, Dinesh, Mike are all here. Happy to talk to you about any aspect of how UKNOF operates. What does the board do exactly? You can see a bit more about that on the wiki, but essentially appointing and removing committee members, signing off on the finances. These are natural persons rather than organisations, and it's the usual UK company director fiduciary duties. And 1/3 of the board rotates at the AGM each year. So back in the day, the advisory committee members helped UKNOF out in various material ways. We don't really need that anymore, but we do think it's important that there is some degree of oversight and accountability. We've thought about more complex models if you look at what NANOG does in terms of individual membership, but we just think that's probably over-engineering it for the size of organisation that we have. But, if you have questions about any of the ways that UKNOF is run, then please raise them with any of the committee representatives, not necessarily just the advisory committee or the board members. This is who's on the advisory committee. Most of them are not here, unfortunately, but they'll all be present in person or virtual for the AGM tomorrow. Program committee, really this is this is where the work that makes the program interesting happen. The chair is Chris Russell, Cathy Almond is co-chair, and it's the program committee's role to make sure that we have interesting presentations. Part of that is about soliciting interesting speakers, part of that is reviewing and ensuring the quality of what is submitted. So we're always looking for stuff. If there's something you want to talk about, we want to hear from you. And for the London meeting in January, we will be issuing the call for abstracts probably the end of today or tomorrow. Excuse me. Or if you've got questions or suggestions, then you can email the PC directly. This is the PC. Most of them are here. So, if you think you get something that's interesting and you're not sure, then by all means talk to the programme committee. We have a process where there's a formal rating of all the submissions that come in by all the programme committee members. We check these scores against the survey feedback to make sure that the programme committee is in touch with the audience. Another thing is that we have a sponsor presentation or two each time. The criteria for accepting a sponsor presentation are purely financial. We try and make sure that it's interesting and relevant, but do not confuse sponsor presentations with submitted presentations, and we will always flag them up clearly as such. And to make sure that's clear, we don't allow submissions at an event from a sponsor. If you're sponsoring it, you can have a sponsor slot, but you can't have a submitted slot, and vice versa. And that way we maintain editorial separation. I'm pleased to say it hasn't happened lately, but there have been one or two incidents in the past where somebody has objected to a talk that's being given and tried to suppress it by putting pressure on UKNOF. Our response to that is, well, if you have an objection to what's being said, then we'll offer you a right to apply, make your own case. Meeting committee is the hardcore of volunteers who help us out every time. They help coordinate a whole bunch of things: registration desk, connectivity, AV, all of these things. We have per meeting helpers as well. Both types are welcome. These are the meeting committee members, the regulars that have a monthly meeting to make sure that everything's on track for the next event. But we also have a list for volunteers. So if you think you're interested in helping out with UKNOF, or you want to get involved in some way but you're not quite sure, sign up to the volunteers list, and that we will bring you into how you can work with us. And I'd just like to say thank you to all the committee members, all the speakers, all the people that help out. It really makes a big difference it's a community. This is why UKNOF meetings happen. That's how you can get in touch with us. And that basically is all I have to say. I've got time for a couple of questions now if you want, but I mean, if you have more detailed questions, I'd recommend them for the AGM tomorrow.
So Keith, because you're the person that you are, you won't thank yourself. But on behalf of everyone else...
I'm sorry, Neil, your microphone's not working and I can't hear you.
Sorry. There's a guy on Virgin controlling the mic. Because of who you are, you won't thank yourself, but you yourself put a lot of effort in, Keith. On behalf of everyone, I'd like to thank you for that as well.
No, thanks. Pleasure. Thank you, Neil. It's a pleasure.